Making soup at home doesn't need to be a hassle, and it doesn't need to take a whole day to make. All you need to do is have the right ingredients, and in about an hour, you have a great start on a soup. I'm gonna show you how to make a chicken soup with vegetables and butternut squash that we're gonna puree. Let me first of all start off with telling you a little bit about the difference between a stock and a broth. A stock is when you only use the bones, and the broth is when you use the flesh. Today we're gonna make a broth. We're going to take our chicken pieces just like this, and we're going to just add them to our stock pot. Then we have carrots, our onions, and celery. And our flavorings are very simple. Some bay leaf, peppercorns, and I like to add a little bit of fresh thyme. Just like that. You don't have to be too precious with it, just throw that right in there. So we're gonna add our water. And you know what I'm gonna do today? I'm gonna add half water and half chicken broth. This way I'm gonna get a great flavor on our homemade broth, and it's gonna intensify the flavor. So you need to know just to cover the vegetables and the chicken. You don't wanna add too much liquid, just enough. There you go. We're not gonna add salt at this point because we're gonna season where we're making our soup. We're going to bring this to a boil. Once it comes to a boil, you're gonna see all the impurities come up, all the scum's gonna come on top, and then we're just gonna skim it. Spin the liquid on the top of the liquid, all the scum goes to the side, and we just simply just take that off, and that's gonna give us a beautiful, clear broth. We're gonna let this broth simmer for about an hour or until the chicken is fully cooked, and we'll be ready to make our soup. So what we want to do is use a colander and a big bowl and gently pour this in. Now we want to pick out our chicken pieces. We can either shred them or we can cut them up so they're not too chunky. So now we're ready to make our chicken vegetable soup. We'll start off with some olive oil. Start off with a nice hot pot and then add our onions. Oh, hear that sizzle. We want them to look translucent. We add the garlic just after the onions so they don't burn. So we're gonna just lower the heat a little bit on this. Let's start adding some carrots and then some celery. Some tomato, it's gonna give us flavor and great color. Some zucchini. And then of course we wanna season, not too much. We'll season at the end, but we're just gonna season as we go so we can build some flavor. Now, our broth that we put together earlier. Now that it's come to a boil, we're gonna lower the heat, bring that to a simmer, and add our chicken. So now at this point, I just want to check for seasoning. That's good, but it needs a little bit more salt and pepper. And just to finish off, a little bit of parsley. And because it's fresh, we want to add it at the end so it doesn't wilt away and it gives us that fresh, clean flavor. Mix that through. Leave that for about 5 more minutes to simmer. So there you have it, chicken and vegetable soup. Now with our broth, we're also gonna make our butternut squash puree soup. We're gonna take a little bit of olive oil and some butter this time, which is gonna give us great flavor. We're gonna add our diced onions and some leeks, which are gonna add a lot of body and flavor to this soup. Of course, some garlic. And just to give it a nice kick, some ginger. Again, we don't want color, we just want this to sweat out, which means it's gonna look translucent. So a little bit of pepper and a touch of salt, because we wanna add the salt at the end when we're finishing our soup, but we wanna build some flavor as we go along. So now that these are getting nice and soft, it's time to add in our butternut squash. We want to add just a touch of flour to bring everything together, and that flour will also help us thicken our soup. And now we add our lovely broth. So we're going to stir all the ingredients together, wait for it to come up to a boil. Once it's at the boil, we're going to reduce it, let it simmer for about 20 minutes. So here we're using an immersion blender. couple seconds, and you have a beautiful smooth soup. For a richer texture and flavor, you can add 35% cream. Homemade soup, it's easy to make, and it tastes great.